and build legacy which outlast them. And of course, a legacy teacher, change maker, and no other than Mr. Jeff Niebuhr. Welcome, Mr. Jeff on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure. Hey, good to be with you. My name's Jeff Niebuhr. I'm a transformation leadership person. I have worked in corporate America for many years and deliver high quality teams into change and transformation. I run a delivery organization in my current company. I also have a bit of an entrepreneurial side and artistic side. I run a record company that is a AI first, AI built, functioning record company that is focused on kind of a DIY ground up, supporting artists in their, kind of the TikTokification of the music industry and trying to move that power from what traditional gatekeepers down to the individual artist. So good to be with you.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Jeff. Thank you. And today let's talk about what happened to a healthy masculinity. And beyond the buzzword, Mr. Jeff, when we say healthy masculinity fell apart, what are the specific human capacities like emotional granularity or non transactional friendship or quiet confidence that you see as most diminished? And why did it atrophy?
That's a deep question. I'm not sure I'm super qualified to answer, but I'm going to give it my best shot. I think, I think there's an unhealthy masculinity that has been known, and just like there's, two sides to kind of every coin. I wonder if a diminished capability has crept in. I don't know, based on there's societal expectations of masculinity that have changed over the last several decades, and I guess I I also run a small men's group where we meet once a week and we try to go through a devotion and we try to, I think there's some struggles that are uniquely male and other struggles that are maybe uniquely female and some struggles that are probably universal. And so we try to support each other as we are trying to become better men over time. And that's an important aspect too of our lives.
Very well said, Mr. Jeff. How have a modern digital landscape from social media performance to pornography to decline of their places uniquely engineered a new kind of loneliness for men, different from generations past?
Yeah, I think I understand the question. It's like how's technology maybe made things more difficult. I think that potentially there's some isolation. With all technology, I tend to think technology is neutral, and it's the use of technology that can be positive. Certainly, like in my men's group, we wouldn't have been able to do this. We're in four different locations. We would not be able to meet regularly if it weren't for the advent of technology. So I think there's positive and negative aspects. I do think, you can look at studies of screen time, how that's increased over time. I had that as a kid, right? You can't have your kids sitting there watching television was what our parents were told. And now, at least at that time, it was like the television was almost the fireplace of olden days, and families would sit around and watch. And now it's like, screens are individual, and that's a different, I think a different set of circumstances on society.
Indeed. So let's talk about the wound metaphor, Mr. Jeff. If the current crisis of masculinity is a symptom of a deeper cultural wound, how would you describe the nature of that wound? Is it a crisis of purpose, belonging, or value?
Are you saying wound or womb?
Wound, wound place.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure. Um, I think that people have always had um, a need for purpose, and if the purpose escapes them, it's difficult, I think, to. Um, I'm reminded of a story. There was a story I read about in World War II where there were prisoners of war in a German camp, and that camp was building bombs for the Axis to bomb the Allies. And these prisoners of war worked in that factory, in that camp. And one day it was bombed and destroyed. And so the barracks were not, but the factory was. And so the next day, the prisoners came out and they had to clean up the factory. So they spent, weeks and months kind of collecting rubble and moving it all to one side of the factory base. And the expectation was they were going to rebuild the factory. And then it turned out once all the rubble was cleared and onto the side, um, instead of rebuilding the factory, they just were told to move the rubble to the other side. And that took several weeks. And then they moved it back to the other side, so that they're moving this rubble back and forth. And they begin to realize there is no purpose here. We're just moving rocks around around this ground. And even when their purpose was to create bombs to kill their families, that was still a purpose. And now these people had no purpose. And it was evident that it was just all a mirage. And they all started dying just of lack of purpose, that the human spirit was just crushed with no purpose. And so I do think that there's a parallel in our own current times of, what is, I think it's wise to spend time. What is my purpose? And how do I, work towards achieving that goal? So I think that's a key thing that maybe is lacking, a key component.
Indeed, Mr. Job. So let's talk about the archetypes and the alternatives. What could it look like? The positive templates, rather than just defining what a healthy masculinity is in it, what real world or historical figures or fictional characters or community models provide a compelling, multi-dimensional template for and what it can be.
Hmm, this is good. Um, I grew up in a reasonably religious background and environment, and so I tend to kind of think of historic biblical figures, and I think there's an interesting nuance if you look at the biblical record. Most kind of like you think pillars of masculinity in the Bible, it's real quick you begin to realize how flawed the individuals were. Even kind of the greats, Abraham. Abraham lied about his wife, said his wife was his sister because he was afraid that those people in this foreign country were going to kill him if they thought that his wife was his wife. So that's weird. David, of course, we know, had a person put up to the front of a war and told the generals to back up so that he would surely die because David wanted to be with his wife. That's terrible. All the way into the New Testament, you have Peter, great person of faith, told Jesus he would never deny him, and then that very night denied him 3 times. Paul, a hero of the New Testament, persecuted Christians. So I think what's helpful to know is it's not a perfection, right, that we are needing to hold our standard to, but I think it's a nuance that's not quite hitting maybe today is, uh, there's a lot of like either or you have to be this kind of person. But I think that there's a, kind of a spectrum of integrity and honesty and authenticity and trying to be a servant leader of others. I think all those things are important as we think through what heroes we would maybe look to.
That is amazing, Mr. Jeff comparison. So the integration challenge. A healthy mind or a healthy man is not just less aggressive. How does integratively channel traditional masculine traits like protectiveness, assertiveness, and competitiveness in, let's say, pro-social or non-dominating ways?
Well, I think there's like an acknowledgement of the value of all human life, and it's easy to be competitive, and even protectiveness can go maybe a bit too far where I don't know, an expectation of leadership in a way that the leader is always right, maybe is a bit of a flaw in that thinking. So I return a little bit to the idea of servant leadership and how are you serving the people you're around and with, whether that's kind of in a family setting or in a business setting or just even in conversation. I sometimes spend time with people, and it's weird. I walk away from a conversation and think, man, that couple or that person, they didn't ask me any questions. We talked mainly about them and their lives, their kids, and so I think, and I don't think it's a masculinity thing as much as it is just a bit of a, emotional awareness and focus on being generous with your time and your thought and allowing others to have space. And I think those things are helpful, and as we think about leadership as well.
Leadership for sure. So beyond the individual, Mr. Jeff, healthy masculinity can't exist in a vacuum. What does a relationship or community that actively nurtures and expects it look like in practice?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I think that it's culturally, there are some cultures that seem to um, diminish the roles of leadership within a family or community, and those tend to see. I tend to think of those as a little bit more autocratic, and I think that when there's a seizing of power at the at a maybe state level that doesn't allow room for individuals to exercise their kind of thoughtfulness and their leadership roles. So I do think that freedom, is an ingredient that leads to a more kind of, or maybe a less obtrusive masculinity.
Interesting, Mr. Jeff. So let's talk about the institutional abdication. Which of our major institutions, like education or organized religion, that workplace have most failed to adopt the models of mentoring and initiation for boys or young men, and with what consequences?
Hmm. Yeah, I guess I would say all organizations can have success or failure. So I don't like to blanket, oh, the religion has failed us or education has failed us. I mean, there's pockets. Clearly, there's pockets of those established, collective organizations that have failed, and then there's still pockets and success stories you see everywhere. So I think if I could wave a magic wand, I probably would. If I had a choice, I would probably remove more power from the state and push that, from a federal to a state to a county to a city to a local to neighborhood to families. And I think that the more that power is run up that uh, pipeline, the further distance it comes from where actual change happens. And so I think those are the kind of things that I would think of that would be helpful.
Certainly, Mr. Jeff. So, as a legacy teacher, change maker, what are your short term and long term goals?
Sure. So, I mean, short term, I feel responsibility for our team at work and artists under the Just in Time Records umbrella. Really, we haven't touched on this much, but I want to bridge a little bit into the AI space and how we talked about technology is neutral, and the use of that technology can be for good or for ill. And my own personal world of building out a business that's functioning using almost all AI has been really kind of exciting. It's a force multiplier. I started life as a coder a bit, a million years ago. I was never all that great at it. And so the opportunity to use some AI tools to build programs and processes and functions, and we're this artist, we're posting 50 or so posts per day across 5 different social media platforms, and we have a library of 3,500 clips, and I'm still growing, and another set of AI functions around marketing and advertisement, and then another set of AI functions around billing. And so that's kind of been exciting as we move forward. I just think that that's going to play out in many, many industries, and those folks that embrace AI technology, kind of an AI first model. I think I heard a thing that said something like, hey, AI is not going to take your job, but somebody that knows how to do your job with AI, they're going to take your job. And so it's again, I think technology is a bit neutral, but it is a major change. It's a force multiplier for people that jump in with both feet and learn it's just like 40 years ago or so when we had kind of IT and data processing, and that all came to the desktop. I started long enough ago to know that not everybody had a computer on their desk, you know, and then everybody did. And there was a time period where some people embraced that, and some people thought that was beneath them or just too new or too different or just not useful to them. And I think those are the people that probably didn't survive that mass change. And I think that something similar is going to play out here with AI. Um, I think that's the kind of the next thing. So trying to caretake people that I have leadership responsibilities to through that process, I think is an important kind of short term.
Mr. Jeff, good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, I'm
Hmm.
not sure anybody wants to be like me, but how about um, I think spending some time on purpose. What is my purpose in these different roles that I find myself in, and um, what is my purpose? Maybe outside of my career, outside of my family. I think sometimes it's easy to get really pigeonholed into I'm this IT manager here and I'm a father here, and that's like 99% of my time. I sleep 8 hours a day, and I don't really have much identity outside of that. So I think it's a helpful exercise maybe to think about, well, what is my purpose, and where's my identity, and how do I move forward in life, not just allowing these roles to define who I am, but really from my internal perspective, where do I want to be and who do I want to be? And all those things, we're all given the same 24 hours a day, and all those things can happen. So cool. Thanks for your time. It was great to meet you, and good luck with your success.
Certainly, Mr. Jeff, and thank you for that advice. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course my book 101 review in sixth season as well, comedy 101 fourth season, as well as my food 101 in its sixth season too. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review in fifth season, as well as music 101, science 101, sex 101 fourth season, and spiritual awakening, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course my Bible verses 101 on my baby podcast. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So Mr. Jeff, ultimately the old map of a manhood is torn up. What is the new internal compass built on what principles that can guide men toward a life of dignity, connection, and health?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know that I would agree that it's definitely broken. I think the precepts have always been here, which are we talked about a little bit, like what is our purpose? Who are we in this life? Who do we serve? How do we interact with our other, mankind, womankind? Remain important.
Very well said, Mr. Jobs. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yep, check me out on LinkedIn or come check out Just in Time Records.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jeff because if you support him, for sure, more and more legacy teaching will rise. And of course, chance maker too. So, Mr. Jeff, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
What can people see you soon?
Yep, sounds good.